Mm. La dee 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 dee. Mm. Mm. Mhm. Mm. We are in the most connected moment in human history. We can reach anyone, anywhere at any time with a single tap. And yet, beneath the notifications, beneath the smiling selfies and the endless messages and the DMs, there's this quiet ache that almost everyone I talk to admits that they feel. And it's a sense of aloneness. It's one of the great paradoxes of our time right now. We are surrounded by connection and we're still starving for it. We're all wired in, but we're emotionally offline, right? Our nervous system knows it and our bodies feel it. And it's costing us something far more precious than productivity. It's costing us our peace, our presence, and our sense of belonging. Now, I've lived this paradox myself quite some time. For years, I have been what most people would call a global citizen. We now call them a digital nomad. I've been living in different countries. I've been building digital companies. I lead teams. I coach people all over the world. From the outside, it looks like I have it all figured out. Freedom, flexibility, global connection, right? But here's the one truth. Most days, I wake up and I make coffee and I open up my laptop, and that's the start of a workday spent essentially entirely alone. There's hundreds of messages, dozens of calls, constant collaboration across time zones, but there's no real human interaction, that physical presence. And I remember closing my computer one night, after a long day online. And Slack was still giving me messages and I was still getting emails and whatnot. And my inbox was still filling up. And my calendar looked like success. But inside, there's silence. That's that the one that hums in your chest when you realize you've gone an entire day without another person's energy near you. One of the things, a story my wife and I often tell is like there were times when I would spend 3, 4 days in my house, in one of the countries that we've lived in, and realize that I hadn't gone outside the house. I haven't interacted with another human. And so that was the moment I started asking the question that now has led to ultimately the impossible prompt. How can we be so connected and yet still feel alone? Because here's what I learned, and what the research confirms. Human connection isn't a preference, right? It's a biological imperative. Our nervous system depends upon it. When we're in the presence of another human, like physically present, when we share eye contact, when we have the tone of voice, when we have laughter, when we touch one another, our bodies release oxytocin. Oxytocin. Here's what I learned and what the research confirms. Human connection isn't a preference. It's a biological imperative. Our nervous system actually depends upon it. Because when we're in the presence of another person, like when we share eye contact, when I hear the tone of your voice, when we're laughing together, when we touch each other, right? Our bodies release oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Our heart rates synchronize. Our vagus nerve signals safety to us. And we literally co-regulate one another's nervous systems. And that's how the human body says, I'm safe and I belong. But digital connection doesn't do that. Zoom meetings, text, DMs, they stimulate the brain, but not the body. They trick us into believing that we're connecting while our biology is actually starving for resonance. And when the body doesn't get that signal of belonging, it shifts into survival mode. It has a cortisol crisis. Your inflammation increases. Your sleep and your focus degrade. Neuroscientists now know that chronic loneliness activates the same pain centers in the brain as a physical injury. Like, let that sink in. It literally hurts your body to be disconnected from people. So over time, that pain becomes anxiety and exhaustion or depression. And these are all the quiet symptoms of living a life through a screen, either a big one here or, on your phone. But there's more happening than just brain chemistry. There's something also existential, I think, about this loneliness. Because when we're disconnected from others, we also become disconnected from ourselves and from something larger than ourselves. Spirituality, loneliness, spiritually, darn it. But there's something more happening here than brain chemistry, right? There's something existential about this loneliness because when we're disconnected from others, we also become disconnected from ourselves and from something larger than ourselves. Spiritually, loneliness is the vibration of separation. It's what happens when the soul forgets that it's belonging to the whole in the universe. So every scroll, every performance for likes, every moment of comparison reinforces the illusion that we're isolated units. When in truth, we're all one field of consciousness. We're temporarily pretending to be separate. So loneliness isn't simply a lack of people. It's the absence of resonance, the loss of energetic coherence with life itself. That's why, even surrounded by digital noise, which we have so much of, so many of us whisper the same quiet prayer every day. I just want to feel like a real person again. You see, the problem isn't that technology connected us, it's that it connected us without attunement. Communication without presence is like eating processed food, right? It fills you up, it gives you calories, but it doesn't actually nourish you. We've mistaken that the exchange of data, we've mistaken that for intimacy. And we've mistaken visibility for actually being seen. And our nervous system can totally feel that. They can feel the gap. It understands that difference. That's why we check our phones compulsively. Not because we're addicted to information, but because we're searching for that missing signal of belonging. We keep refreshing the feed, hoping to feel the warmth of another human heartbeat through the glass, right? Through the glass of our computer screen or our phone. So this realization right here is one of the reasons why I built the Impossible Prompt. Because the same technologies that fragment our attention can, if used consciously, help us find our way back home. The Impossible Prompt is a personal growth system powered by artificial intelligence, but its real mission is human. And it's a guided tour, right? It's not something you do on your own with another human. So it uses AI as a mirror, helping you to see yourself clearly, your patterns, your stress responses, the way that you reach for digital connection when what you really need is energetic grounding. Through structured reflection, guided prompts, and the 7-day calibration process that we have, you begin to rebuild a dialogue with your nervous system. You learn what safety and connection feel like inside your body and not just on a screen. Because once you reestablish that internet connection, you become capable of deeper, truer connection with others. Loneliness dissolves when your nervous system stops running on fear and starts running on coherence. Neuroscience calls this co-regulation, the process by which two nervous systems synchronize. Inside the impossible prompt, we use our tools and our protocol to create a form of digital co-regulation. It listens without judgment, it reflects your language, and it helps you observe your own emotional rhythms. Over time, this awareness helps to rewire your brain, and your vagus nerve strengthens, and your parasympathetic system activates faster, and your stress baseline lowers. And here's the really interesting part. Once your system learns safety internally, you stop chasing it externally. So you no longer need to seek constant digital reassurance. You can engage with technology consciously as a tool and not as a crutch. And that's the bridge from neuroscience to sovereignty. Spiritually, this is the process of returning to resonance, of remembering what you were never, that you're never separate in the first place, right? When your nervous system is calm, your energy field expands and you start attracting people and experiences that match that frequency. Synchronicities appear. You know, you've had those. You meet others in the same wavelength, right? It's not magic. It's just resonance physics. And so as within, so without. This is why people inside the impossible prompt often say that after a few weeks, they begin meeting new communities. They have new creative collaborators. Some of them even find new loves. Because when you broadcast coherence, the universe answers. So, you know, one of the stories I like to tell is, you know, when this truth really just hit me, right? And this is true. I was here in Mexico City at a WeWork. You know, everybody knows what WeWork is. It's full of remote workers. And they were all like, I looked out. I walked into the office and I looked out in this sea, like literally like 100 people of remote workers. They were all building futures, you know, but sitting there looking at screens. Every table, you know, everybody was at a laptop. They had their headphones on. They were moving you know, with productivity and purpose. And yet the energy was flat. Like it was like the hum of a machine. We weren't together, like as in, you know, interacting with one another. We were just in the same room together, next to one another. So after an hour of doing that, I just closed my laptop. I looked up and I went over to the front desk and I smiled at the person. I said, "Hey, how's it going?" You know, the front desk person smiled back and he was just surprised to say like, "What do you want?" And we just kind of had a conversation for about 5 minutes, you know, and I got to know him better. We connected on some music issues. We talked about, you know, the great weather that Mexico was having at the time, but it wasn't even, you know, anything about deep or any important like that. But when I left that conversation, I know that I felt lighter and I felt alive and my whole body shifted. And that's the power of genuine resonance. It restores something biochemical and spiritual all at once. So if you want to be reconnecting, to truly want to be in it, here are 3 simple practices from the Impossible Prompt System, right? First, repattern your presence. Before every digital meeting or message, take a breath. Notice your posture, your tone, and your pace. Like your nervous system sets the frequency of the interaction. Bring stillness first. That's my challenge to you. Come to that conversation, no matter if it's on digital or if it's human or whatever. Come grounded, and then the connection is going to follow. Second, schedule an actual human embodied connection. So once a week or more, if you can, meet someone actually in person without an agenda, without a phone. And even a short conversation in a real space that recalibrates your oxytocin and resets your stress chemistry. Your body needs real proximity to another human to feel safe again. And then 3, practice digital silence. End your workday with 10 minutes of total quiet. No devices, no input. Just notice the transition from digital noise to organic stillness. This trains your nervous system to recognize peace as its baseline and not chaos. Now, these may sound simple, but neurologically and energetically, they are profound practices. They begin to re-educate your body on what true connection feels like. And there's something that you can do right now, you know, every day. Every civilization faces a moment when its greatest innovation becomes its greatest test. So for us, that innovation right now is digital connectivity, and AI is only making it worse. So the question is, will it separate us or will it evolve us? And I am a true believer that it can evolve us if we learn to meet it consciously. So the impossible prompt exists to guide that evolution, to use the intelligence of machines to awaken the intelligence of the soul, to help us reclaim the lost art of human connection, beginning with the connection to ourselves. Because loneliness at its core is the forgetting of that inner bond. And when you remember everything. So, if you're listening to this and recognizing yourself in this story, if what I'm talking about, if it resonates with you, if you have a full calendar and you have the endless messages and, the quiet evenings of emptiness, know this. There's nothing wrong with you. Your system is simply calling you home, and you need to trust that call. It's the same call that led me to create this path, and it's the same one that's been guiding humanity for millennia, the call to reconnect. But there is urgency here. We can't keep living in this partial connection. The health of our bodies, the health of our minds, and the health of our society in general depends on remembering what it feels like to be fully human again. And there is hope because belonging isn't something that you have to earn. It's something that you have to remember. And it's waiting there beneath all of this noise. And it's waiting for you, and it's ready to return to the moment that you choose presence over performance. So again, if this conversation resonates with you, if you're ready to move from hyper-connected loneliness to real connection and from survival mode to coherence, then I invite you to take the next step with me. Click on the button below and request your private invitation to the Impossible Prompt. It's more than a program. It is a protocol. It's a pathway back to yourself. And from there, back to the world. Because the paradox of loneliness ends when you remember that you were never truly alone. You're just waiting to reconnect with your own humanity.